Welcome back to the stock portfolio update videos. Currently, my two stock portfolios are sitting at a combined value of over $123,700. That's made up of the $65,947 in my stake portfolio, and then in my Vanguard portfolio, I'm sitting at around $57,772. Overall, this has been a good recent week for me. As you can see, my overall stock portfolio, my stake one, is up nearly 35% and has broke the $65,000 mark, almost at $66,000. And my Vanguard account is getting closer and closer to $60,000. So overall, my portfolios are really growing, and this is a great time for me as an investor. Since my last portfolio video, my portfolio is up over $1,000 in just the last week, which is really positive, and just shows that the great momentum that the market has been on recently. And even if we take a look at some of my holdings that I have in this portfolio, like Amazon stock is now trading at $231, and this is one of my biggest conviction stocks. And if you've followed any of my videos, you would have seen I was heavily buying into the stock when it dipped. And as you can see, just since the start of this month alone, it's up around nearly 9%, or 8.7, and that started around $212 a share and is now over $230. As you can see, I have around 7,700 USD invested, or around 33.2 shares, which I'm now up around 17.8%. There was a time not too long ago where I was actually almost flat and negative, as I was heavily buying in the dip. I missed out buying at the very bottom because it is very hard to time the market. But overall, as the market kind of devalued Amazon stock, I saw this as a great buying opportunity, and it's something that I heavily invested in. And all those videos are on my YouTube channel to go watch. And now I'm really reaping the rewards as the stock is up nearly 18% for me and my holding. Even as we took a look at the last year for Amazon, it's been pretty good, up around 26%. So this has been a great holding for me recently, and has really been boosting the portfolio returns. Another stock that's been doing that is Google. Google, like Amazon, was a stock that I was heavily investing in the dip, and I have around 6,550 USD in Google, or around 33.9 shares. And as you can see, my total returns for this is around 17.39. So again, very similar to Amazon, as it was a stock I was buying when it fell. And you can see in the last 6 months, it has traded pretty flat, but just the last month alone, it's up nearly 13%. So if you were someone that was really taking the risk and buying it when it was a bit cheaper, you were getting it around $170 a share, and it's now $193. The stock was trading at an 18-19 P ratio, and it looked really undervalued as there was lots of fears around its search dominance being disrupted. But this is a company that I think long term, especially when you look at its PE ratio, is under many of the big tech giants that it competes against, and a lot in the S&P 500. I think it's just one of those companies that I can invest in, and 10 years from now, I think it should still be printing money. I think it can still be a great company. And again, I have an average share price of around $164, and even at this price that it is now, it's still an attractive company if I had cash sitting around. Taking a bit more of a macro view, the overall S&P 500 is up around 4.26% in the last month, and VOO is my biggest individual holding in this portfolio. As you can see, it's around 19,221, so I'm getting close to that $20,000 mark. With around 32.8 shares, and I'm up around 40%, as this is something I historically dollar cost averaged into, with an average share price of around $420. It's not somewhere I've been putting my money recently, as I haven't been investing as much into my stake portfolio and more into my Vanguard portfolio. But overall, this is still the biggest position in this portfolio, and you can see it's still up 17% in the last year, which is amazing, especially if you were someone that was really buying in during this dip, as I was in many of my positions. So again, I'm a long-term investor. I have a long-term horizon ahead of me. I have lots of decades where I'm going to be investing in the market. So these small blips here, in the grand scheme of things, even if we take it on a 5-year view, whilst it does look like a bit of a big correction, over a 5-year period, it looks a lot smaller. And then if you go over a max period, you barely even notice it. So that's the kind of view I'm trying to keep with my investing outlook. and it's done me quite well recently. And as you can see, yeah, this stock portfolio is up around 35% nearly now, and not that long ago it was only up 20%, so it really has rebounded. Another important one to look at is my Vanguard portfolio, because every week that gets by, this gets closer and closer to the value of my stake portfolio. It really has grown. There's only 2 positions in this portfolio. First is VLC, which I did trim around $6,000 of a few months, which I did invest in VGS. This kind of tracks the biggest companies in Australia, pays a really strong dividend. It is something I'm potentially looking at selling out of as I go for a first home. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just think I can get better returns elsewhere. And if I do need to sell one of my positions, I'd rather sell that than sell VGS, because VGS is something I really believe in. VGS I've covered a lot on here, but this kind of tracks the international market excluding Australia. And it holds many of the big tech companies, many of the big US companies, but also some companies from Europe, Asia, places like that. And yeah, I've nearly got $50,000 invested there. I will hopefully soon hit that $50,000 mark, or I have around $3,000 more to invest. But yeah, that's really shot up as well recently. You can see it's trading at around $144 a share. And if we have a look at the actual details, up around 18% in the last year, really good returns, a low management fee. And again, I do get pretty good dividends from this, which I just reinvest back into the portfolio. If we have a look at the returns, you can see in the last year, it's done quite well. Again, like VOO, I just can't invest in VOO in this portfolio. But the same thing, when I was having these drops into the 120 kind of mark, 130, I was heavily buying into the position. So I've kind of reaped the rewards of this upturn that's happened, which has been quite good for me. And again, my plan is just to dollar cost average into these positions over the long term. Looking back at my portfolio, I'm now getting closer and closer to the $125,000 mark, which is another nice goal to tick off. My first $25,000 took me forever to save and hit. I was talking to some people around this before. I mean, we can have a look at my Excel spreadsheet now, which will kind of break it down a little bit better. But if we have a look here, you can kind of see my portfolio values over time. Both my stake and my Vanguard. This is what I update at the end of every month. So obviously this is a bit delayed because it doesn't have the latest data. It only has it from the last day of June. But you can see over time, it took me, I was talking about this, 4.5 years to hit $100,000. And then now pretty much in a half a year, basically, I've hit 23,000, meaning that next $100,000 mark that I hit should hopefully only take me, let's say 2.5 years. Hopefully that's kind of my goal, with saving for an investment property. But again, that just shows you how easy it is to get that next 100 or that next 10 after you get your first 10. I think if we have a look at my portfolio values here, just on these 2 graphs here, you can see my first 23,000 was pretty much here in April is when I hit that. And that was years ago. I should probably go and update the years here. But that was so long ago. And that's how long it took me to get that. I'd been previously investing since I turned 18. And now my next 23,000, almost 25,000 has come in just the first half of this year. Again, that's with me paying for an overseas trip to North America and then saving up for other things. So that compounding effect is no joke. Again, my dividends have gotten bigger. I always speak about that all my dividends are reinvested back into my portfolio. If we have a look at my dividends, my goal is to hit $2,000 in dividends this year. I think I definitely will hit that. Again, I'll update this at the end of the month and it will show my recent dividend, which was my biggest ever dividend across both the portfolios. And all that money's just been reinvested. So that snowball just keeps on growing. And again, when I potentially sell out of my VLC position, obviously I'll take a big hit on my dividends, but I'm not a dividend investor, especially as a young person. I think it's better to focus for myself, at least this isn't financial advice, but just for myself, to focus on long-term capital gains. And I think I can do that a lot better through some other companies. But if you are someone who focuses on dividends, this is a great thing to track as well. And whilst I'm not a dividend investor, I've tracked these. It's quite easy for me to go through my stake history and my Vanguard history and just see what dividends I got. And you can just see over time how slowly it's just been treading upwards and upwards. In my stake portfolio, I did used to hold a bit more dividend paying stocks such as JP Morgan, which I sold for a massive gain, McDonald's, those type of companies. But now my portfolio is not really as centered that way, so the dividends aren't as, not all my companies pay as big dividends, but again, all dividends are reinvested back. And my Vanguard portfolio, you can really see that upwards trajectory as I've grown it over time. Also looking at my Excel spreadsheet, you can kind of see the weightings. So in my Australian portfolio, my biggest position is obviously VGS, and VGS is my biggest across all my portfolios. And that's sitting around 81% now, and my BLC position's around 19, so pretty much an 80-20 split. And then in my American portfolio, you can see VOO is around 45%, and then my individual selection stocks take up the remaining 55%, which is mainly just the big tech stocks. Again, I am invested in Costco there. Costco's had a bit of a rough time recently. I did sell out of half my position in Costco, so I did lock in some really good gains, I think at around 80%, so that was really good, but I still hold some stock there, and I'm up around 63% on that, so still good returns. Apple's another position that I sold down a lot of. You can see it's only 3%, when previously it was almost the same size as Microsoft. So that's something that I did trim, which I'm quite happy I have, because its returns haven't been as good compared to other ones like Amazon, and I think long term potentially companies like Amazon and Google might outperform it, but again, I just pick individual stocks for a bit of fun. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to beat out the market or anything. It just keeps me a bit more interactive with my portfolio. It's something I've been doing for years. I like investing in companies that I believe in, like JP Morgan years ago. I really thought it was a great time to invest in it. It did really well for me. I still think it's a good time potentially to have my money there. It's probably a position I wish I didn't sell. But yeah, it's a bit of fun investing in stocks and kind of following companies. It's kind of what I do. I've got a background kind of studying finance and economics, and then studying for my CFA at the moment. So that's kind of just a bit of fun for myself. But that's kind of a bit of an update on how the kind of Excel spreadsheet and things are looking. When I update these again, it'll be a massive month for me. So again, end of last month I was sitting around 61,381 for my stake portfolio, and now we can see that's nearly 66,000, 65.7 or whatever it was. And then even my Vanguard account is now in the 57,000s compared to the 54. So it's just been an amazing month for me, investing wise, especially because recently I was paying for a lot of travel, as I have that coming up, so that kind of hindered my investing. But I still had a massive month last month. You can see from 56,000 to 61, and from 50 to 54. So just these last 2 months alone has been great for me. If we go back to the portfolios, again, my main goal on these, and the reason why I started doing these videos years ago, was just to show just a normal investor over time, kind of my own experience, and that's kind of what I wanted to share with people. So this was just another weekly portfolio update video. Feel free to share your comments, how your portfolios are doing, or what you're investing in, or what your thoughts are on my investment strategies, and I'll do another one next week. Cheers.